Welcome.
Tory.
Ola Strandberg, thanks for coming on here and doing this.
Hey, Tory, my absolute pleasure.
Um, so a lot of the questions I had today were basically technical things. I kind of sent you a list in advance. We were kind of talking about it. Um,
Yeah, let's
I,
do it. I think there were a couple that I might not be able to give great answers to, but shoot, and we'll do our best.
I just want to say first off, I think the Endure neck itself is really cool. Like I
Mhm.
really like the feel of it. You know, it kind of makes you play more like fusiony Hollesworth for me. It kind of makes you get in that zone mentally
Mhm.
versus the feel and response that you get with the other stuff. But um, I think more though, for in my experience, the bridges are kind of the tone production thing. You know, like after playing Telecasters for so many years, there's
Mhm.
definitely more of a transference going on vibration wise because it's such a huge block of steel connected to the body, right? So I wanted to ask you, was there any kind of impetus behind using all the aircraft aluminum and like what's the like how does is that better for vibration?
Yeah, I think I mean there's a lot of stuff going on in a guitar, and the pickups, they pick up the vibration from the strings, of course, and that's all they can do. And the strings are anchored in one end at the nut and the other end at the bridge. So whatever sits in between is going to influence how the string vibrates. And really what makes, because I mean, when you hit a string, it's in theory like a perfect sine wave, which is what you
Mm,
get from a synth.
I didn't
But
think about that.
what makes the guitar sound like a guitar and not another instrument is really the overtones. Because if you look at, I mean, you hit the string, there's like vibrations that seem to bounce between the bridge and whatever fret you're fretting. So the thinking is that um, at the bridge end, whatever's in between, or I mean, whatever's anchoring the string at the bridge is going to influence that overtone pattern quite a bit.
Yeah,
And
because the guitar, like if you track one on top of the net, you know, the exact same sound over and over and over again, it does kind of it's not perfect, right?
yeah, and there's also, I mean, if you take uh, like a telebridge, the traditional one that has like a piece of brass, and then it sits with two set screws against the thin plate of metal that then sits against the body. There's going to be a lot of vibration loss or a lot of a big loss of energy in each of those contact points. And those bridges, I mean, it's not like you visually can see them sliding, but I'm sure they're moving, and there's like an energy loss from the set screw of the bridge to the the thin metal plate, and then to the between the finish and then the body wood.
Hmm.
Or if you take like a Strat bridge or tunematic saddles, um, there's a lot of transfer points of energy, and there's also mass in the bridge itself. So the heavier the bridge piece is, the harder it is going to be to like make that piece transfer any vibrations into
Oh
the
yeah,
wood.
I see what you're saying. The lighter aluminum, it has like a density that's slightly different than like steel.
Yeah.
So yeah, because
So
like
it's going to be as you hit a string, the mass of the bridge is less with aluminium than with steel or brass. So you're going to transfer those vibrations more quickly and easily into the wood of the body. And then if you look at a Strandberg bridge, every component is like clamped and secured to minimize any loss of energy. So the just feel the vibration of the string and the energy of the string will actually hit the body of the guitar more effectively than it does in most conventional bridge designs. So
that's
that's the general idea.
that's another thing I've told you before. Is like I feel like these guitars, they have. I know this is ridiculous, but it has like a lower latency
Yeah.
than other guitars, if that makes sense. I can immediately tell because I do all the tapping, the two-handed tapping all the time,
Mhm.
where you have little tiny vibrations versus this kind of thing, and
Yeah.
it's really apparent to me. Like on a Les Paul, you try to do these things because it only has these two contact points where the intonation is set. It
Mhm.
doesn't have as much that you hit a note with your right hand and it's just like ooh, ooh. You really have to
Mhm.
dig in, versus this, which is
Yeah.
just like duh, it just completely like activates, especially up past like the 15th fret. You get more, and you were talking about like the synth like stuff. That's something I've noticed too, is that there's kind of like a Strandberg sound. Like a lot of other people are kind of confused about that. They don't really understand what I'm
Mhm.
saying when I say that, but it's very much apparent because the entire fingerboard kind of is like more balanced. Like you can hear every note, especially like I said, up high, versus down low. You start playing more complex, dense chords, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I definitely can tell that that's in tune, and then I can hear every note better. Um,
Mhm. Yeah,
versus
and I
something.
think a lot of that comes from the components of the bridge being tightly coupled. We use very lightweight and stiff materials, so there are less components that will absorb energy. It'll like reflect energy rather than absorb it. And
And that's another
uh,
thing I wanted to bring up too is the fact that I don't know, maybe this is just psychological, but it seems like headless guitars have an increased vibrational transference too. Because, like, my theory was that the headstock is not there, there's not
mhm.
vibration, cannot go into it, so there's nothing
Yeah,
lost. It goes back in the other direction.
yeah, no, and that's true. There is the headstock adds character to the sound and like behavior of the guitar, and you can like that or not like it. But the other thing is, um, I've met some of some guitar builders that I look up to. I met it's a long time ago now, what I'm referring to, but I met some builders and I've told them proudly I make headless guitars, and they've said, no, headless doesn't work. I've tried it. It didn't work. It blah, 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 etc. And I think that's if you slap conventional hardware on a headless guitar, you're going to notice the lack of headstock in like a negative way. But with the
Oh.
way that we build the guitars and with our hardware, it's it's like the sum of the parts or some of the contribution of the parts is greater than just combining them. So it works as a package. And if these guys say no, Headless doesn't work, I'm sure that is their experience. Because if you just cut the headstock off a guitar and lock the strings down at the nut, it will change the character of the sound, and it's not going to be what it was before you had the headstock.
Well,
So it's all about creating like a tasteful combination where everything works in concert with each other.
I kind of, I mean, my original introduction into this was, like seeing those Steinberger guitars, but also, Alan Holdsworth, of course, and
Yeah.
so there's kind of a good litmus test between Alan Holdsworth before Headless and after. Do you know what I mean? And I see these little nuances, and I'm like, well, I can kind of see what's changed in his approach from one to the other, and the tone too. It kind of got more focused and kind of like, I don't know what to say, modern, because that's kind of a gauche cliche thing to say, but like it kind of is. It kind of turned into like the ultimate expression of like modern jazz fusion, that sound and approach. So I mean, I know I saw that you actually did work with Alan for some period of time. Do you want to talk about that at all? Because I have tons of people that are Holdsworth fans that visit the
Oh
show.
yeah. Yeah, so we met here in Uppsala. I'd been to a few gigs and like talked to him, but that was before I actually built guitars. So I met him here in Uppsala at the Uppsala Guitar Festival. I'm pretty sure it was 2010 or 2011. And I had a Strandberg with the True Temperament fretting system on it. So I definitely thought that that would be something really for Alan, and it would be like the opener. It would be interesting enough to show him rather than if I just showed up with another headless guitar, he might just say, "Oh, another headless guitar." But when he saw those frets, it was like, "Yeah, I need to try that." And he picked it up and he played it a few minutes, and he said, well, it was more about the Endurnek actually than the True Temperament. But he was like, I don't mind it at all, is what he said. Those were his words. And I interpreted that as the highest level of praise you could ever get from Alan.
I think maybe he was under like contracts with the Carbon Kiesel or something like that at the time, perhaps.
Yeah, he was, but it's not like he was prevented from playing other guitars, and we did have a discussion about that, and he was very clear that although he was endorsed by, I guess they were still called Carbon at the time,
Yeah.
but he could play other guitars. So and the one particular guitar that he played was actually a very interesting one. It was just so
The Bill the
lively.
Lack.
Yeah, but anyway, the guitar that I showed him, it was a very lively guitar, and incidentally, Guthrie Govan played the same guitar at
Oh,
that show, and he contacted me. He also loved it, and contacted me just a few weeks after asking if he could buy it. But then by then it had already sold. But anyway. So I talked to Alan, asked him if he would be interested in a guitar like this, and he said yes. So I built him another guitar with True Temperament, and I delivered that to him at the NAMM show, which was basically 3 months later. So that was really I had to like fast track build it from whatever materials I had laying around, because I didn't have time to go out chasing anything specific for this build. And it just turned out incredibly well. And I went to his house to deliver the guitar.
Now, was he in that
And
circular geosin, the dome house?
no, this was in Rancho Santa Margarita or
Oh.
something. He lived at the time in Southern California. Um, but he also looked at it and said, "Oh, this is beautiful," etc. And I said, "Well, aren't you going to play it? I want to hear like when it's plugged in." And he said, "No, no, no. Trying a new guitar to me is like trying on new underwear. I don't do that when people are looking."
Hmm.
So, and
Totally get it.
I was there with my son as well. And we hung around for a while, left, went and have dinner, and like 20 minutes into dinner, Alan called me and he said, "I love it. It's amazing." And I talked to him once again sometime later, and he said he really appreciated like the piano-like qualities of
Hmm.
playing
That, sorry.
True Temperament System. And he also commented that he had to, um, if memory serves me, he would like detune it by 2 cents, the entire guitar, to work with the bass.
Oh, yeah. Well, see, that's interesting. Two things on that is the piano thing. There's been several times because, like, when I play, sometimes I'll hit a bass note. Like, I'm playing two-handed, but I'll hit a bass note with my thumb over here because it's just more economical to do that. But sometimes it does have that kind of resonance to it.
Mhm.
Like you'll hear that note, and it sounds like somebody hit a Rhodes with that open E or something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And these guitars make I feel like good synth controllers too.
yeah.
Which is another thing maybe a lot of people don't think about. When they're
Mhm.
doing that. But yeah,
No, that's absolutely true, and we noticed when we did the V guitar collaboration with Boss, um, that had been like calibrated for a Strat type guitar that they had done before. It was like a collab with Fender that they did the V guitar, and when you mounted the same hardware on our guitars, they had to recalibrate
hmm.
everything because the character was so different. I think like in a positive way, it just tracks better with the Strandberg than most conventional guitars.
Um, I want to talk a little bit about the pickup designs because that's another
Mm.
unsung thing, a hero about this brand is that like a lot of other companies, I feel like they just kind of like they're like, okay, whatever, we made this. Let's just get Seymour Duncans, let's just get DiMarzios or whatever, or whatever, throw them in there, or just some generic thing or whatever. But I can tell a difference. So like on the
Mm.
Essential, which I've been playing a lot, it has a more just pronounced mid range. Do you know what I mean? Than
Yeah.
a lot of other humbucker guitars, double humbucker, are like they just don't sound quite like that. Like they have more like it's super bassy or it's really trebly. But like so like I was wondering if the pickup design was like really intensive or like what the process was because it seems like they also are voiced so that they blend with other instruments versus just being
Mhm.
by itself a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the pickup design is quite a subject in itself, and I think something that's perhaps, I mean, different for me personally than most other people out there forming or building a guitar brand is that, I mean, I've obviously played when I was younger. I came at this from an interesting interest in playing guitars, but I've never recorded in a proper studio. I mean, I've played gigs, but I don't have a lot of experience like being on a stage. So I don't personally know what's going to sound good. I have to rely 100% on other people to tell me what they appreciate and what works for them. And then it's up to me to try and distill that into something that becomes a product.
Well,
So,
have you seen these new like there's people coming up with crazy designs like uh rail buckers and stuff like this that are like it was kind of an idea I saw tossed around. It's like kind of like a humbucker, but like it's a 3x3 coil. So
mhm,
it's like a larger single coil design, but like one half of it's smaller. So, but they got it staggered so that it's like two different coils disconnected. So you got no hum,
mhm, mhm, mhm.
like that kind of stuff. Uh,
Yeah. But I think, I mean, there are a lot of technologies out there, and I think again, just regarding like pickup choices. So when I designed the guitar originally, my focus was weight reduction. So
oh,
whatever lightest weight component I could find, I would use it. So I used a lot of lace alumitones pickups in the early days.
hmm.
And uh, with them, they were not like mainstream pickups. People didn't know them or certainly didn't ask for them. But when people tried them, they said, "Oh, the clean sounds are amazing, but distorted sounds get a little too harsh." That was the kind of feedback that we got. But we kind of persisted because lightweight pickups in a lightweight guitar just makes sense. Innovative type of design makes sense. But then we started having, there was a period when we had issues with, um, people would screw them too hard into the body and they would like flex a little bit and the magnets would come
Oh.
loose, not visibly. So you get microphonics and stuff. So we had a lot of, support conversations justifying why we had these weird pickups in our guitar instead of talking about the amazing guitar features. So at that point, we just said, oh, let's just go to mainstream brands that people don't question. I mean, no one's going to be hung for choosing a Seymour Duncan pickup.
But you now make your own in house though, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but then we went to Seymour Duncan, and then for the extended range guitars, we used a lot of EMGs, the X series, 707X, 808X. And a lot of people would also say that, I don't like active pickups, I don't like EMGs. But then when they played the Strandberg with those EMGs in, it's like, man, this sounds amazing. So I'm just getting back to like the character of the guitar makes such a big difference. And then, so fast forward a few years, we started using a lot of SIR pickups that have worked really well, and we still work quite a bit with SIR, and
Oh.
they just have a lot of that clarity and transparency that works really well with our guitars.
But they're kind of like the LA
And
players boutique go-to company. A lot of these people,
yeah,
are like
I mean,
all in it.
yeah, I mean the pickups that we use, the SSH and SSV and SSH plus, they're like a hot rodded PAF set. So, but that works really well. But then a number of years ago, we did set out on quite a project with a pickup builder called Michael Frank, who used to work at Fender. He was like a legend
Oh,
there. He
I
wound the
didn't know that.
pickups for Eric Johnson and
Oh,
for
shit.
so he really knew what he was doing. And that was quite a project and an eye opener in terms of like pickup design and he also said that when you got our guitars, he just said that there was so much character in the guitar itself, so he had to wind the pickups and compose them completely different to what he would do for a more conventional guitar and voice the pickups to match that. So we basically, and then he was a one-man company basically, and he sadly passed away just a year and a half into that project. So our source for those pickups just disappeared, and we had to move away from that. But we learned a lot in that process about like the character of what a Strandberg does and what it sounds like, and could voice the pickups.
Well, see,
That we now make.
that's what set it apart for me. Is that like I kind of feel like this brand has that kind of character to it. That it's like another thing. It's actually like another brand that it's not just like a lot of people make guitars, but I wouldn't say that they have any specific different character or anything about them. It's just kind of like, well, here's another guitar. It's got a Floyd Rose on it, or whatever, and it looks like this or whatever. But like this brand actually kind of has another sound to it. Like you have Fender sound, the Gibson sound, the Strandberg sound, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think the other thing which is quite important is also pickup positioning in relation to the bridge. So in particular for the bridge pickup, but to some extent also for the neck pickup, and we do fairly frequently get feedback from more jazzier players who ask us for a 21 fret or 22 fret guitar just to be able to position the neck pickup farther away from.
Yeah, that would actually help on that up front, I think, a little bit.
Yeah. I get that, but
do you have
I don't know,
any?
we just been boneheaded about that and keep delivering 24 fret guitars.
Well, I mean, I understand. I mean, I totally understand. It's like a big involved process to like manufacture neck designs, and then you got to house them, and then you got to have teams that build maybe like individual designs. Like one of my things, I think it would be cool to have a straight scale with the carbon fiber in it. That would be kind of cool. Or like, I mean, I know that there's, I don't know, maybe it's like you could just use different bridges for different neck, like if options or something maybe. But it's kind of getting a little, Well, speaking of this though, the body on most of these guitars a little bit thicker?
No, I think they're fairly similar across the various guitar models, but then we obviously have some that are chambered with the top on them, others that are solid, but also with the top on them, solid with veneer or solid just painted. So those things will also make a difference, how the body is constructed.
I mean, my experience is like looking at this in other guitars I have laying around. It seems like it's slightly thicker, which I think is good for the body to be just a little bit thicker in the direction of, how far it juts out from the, and just also that a little extra mass maybe for the purpose of, making up for the difference of the other cuts. I didn't know if that was
Yeah.
intentional or something, or if that was just kind of me imagining it maybe, or
Yeah, I think that, I mean, back in the day, I was like chasing weight, I was chasing ergonomics. Those things were my focus. I didn't necessarily set out to make like a better guitar. That was like a happy accident. Everything that when everything just worked so well, I just kept doing it, and then over time, there's been so many variations of the theme, but it's always retained like the Strandberg character and the Strandberg soul. So it's interesting, and I still can't put my finger on like 100% what is creating that character, but
that's
there's
exactly what
there's something.
I've been trying to figure out too. Is it's the same thing as like when you pick up a Telecaster and you play it, and you're like, well, this is a Telecaster. Everything about it, like in theory, it should be the same as a Strat,
Yeah.
roughly, or something like that. Like if you start swapping pickups and all this, and you're like, well, why doesn't this sound like a Strat?
Hmm.
It's like it's what it's just mind-boggling, because I've seen these
Yeah.
videos where these guys do these tests. But one in particular where he took away the entire body. It was just like strings in the pickup,
Yeah.
and then you're listening to comparisons, and it sounds almost the same as a
Yeah.
body guitar, with the same pickup model. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that doesn't make any sense. So like I was thinking maybe it's like haptic feedback. I'm playing and I'm feeling that I'm hearing it, and all this stuff is happening, and that's what's causing it to have a different character. But no,
Yeah,
it, it
but still,
definitely sounds different.
I think there's merit to that, because I mean, if all you're doing is like hitting a string in a repeatable way, and it goes through like a signal chain that was designed in the 1950s, you're going to mask out the differences that the body wood makes. Because I think that video tried to prove that the tone wood is fake news kind of thing. But I mean, in a better signal chain, you would hear the differences, and you as a player will feel the difference, and you'll play different as a result. So it'll like inspire you in different ways, and your pick attack is going to influence the sound quite a bit.
Mm.
And so that I think all that test does is tell you that it's possible to mask out the differences. It doesn't tell you that the differences don't make a difference, if you will.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if an audience doesn't hear the difference between two guitars, you as a player, you're gonna play different. You're gonna sound different
Well, that's the
and
main
feel
thing I was
different.
going to
Your
say.
experience of playing is going to be different
That's
with
the main
those.
thing I was going to say about this brand, is that the unspoken thing that a lot of people are not thinking about is the feel, like
Yeah,
how the player actually, because that makes you write differently. It
yeah,
makes you, the whole thing changes. Versus, and it's, in theory it should be the same, but it's
yeah.
not.
But if I mean, if you feel great playing one instrument, and you see yourself in the mirror and that, oh, that looks cool. It's all part of the creation process, and that's going to influence what you do, and an audience will hear that,
Well, I mean, like
even if they don't hear the difference between a humbucker and a single coil.
I'll use a lot of cluster chords that are like
Mhm.
keyboard chords basically, and
Yeah,
on different guitars it's just kind of like it sounds pretty close, but it's just still, it's like there's resistance in some way or another. Things are
yeah,
not clicking, but on this it's just kind of like bam, here you go.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that.
There's just the dynamics and headroom in a Strandberg guitar in general. I think if you play it softly, it's going to be soft. If you dig in, it's going to be loud.
Yeah. I think that's about all I had on here. Other stuff I had on was maybe like maybe if you guys experimented with wood types different at some point and all of that, you know. And
Yeah. I mean, when I started out, I didn't have a lot of experience of guitars. So, I mean, I built them to order, and people who order guitars from me, they had a lot of experience. So I would like pick their
oh,
brain. Oh, you chose Alder. Why did you do that? What character do you expect from Alder? Someone else wanted basswood, someone wanted swamp ash, etc. So, I mean, I would just learn by building because I would then build it and test the end result. So I've gone through, any imaginable wood when it was still custom shop, when I was still working out of my garage and build one guitar at a time. So once we got some of those iconic customers, like Chris Letchford inspired the design, like the standard design for the 7-string guitar. Tosin
yeah.
Abbasi inspired the design for the 8-string guitar. And actually, Misha Mansour, even though he's not like known as a 6-string player, he kind of inspired the design for the 6-string. And once those were out there, people started just saying, "Oh, I want a guitar like his guitar." So those became the standard models that we now like mass produce. And then we've changed like our various models. They have different body woods to mimic like the stereotypical characters of those music genres. So the fusion guitar has an alder body with a rosewood fretboard. Our original model and the prog models have a swamp ash body with a maple top. So all those things, just the the character of the guitar like matches the stereotypes of the sound you're going for in those music genres. It influences the sound so much.
But I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm sure a ton of people are going to be excited to see this. And I just went as a little final thing. Just a yes or no. You don't have to go into detail. Were there any plans to do any other type of essential models, like a Salin type guitar like that, like cheaper tellies or anything like that?
Currently, no.
Okay, because
But
I think a lot of people on
any
my channel are like probably
yeah,
Fender players or something like that, you know. But
yeah. But I mean, judging by the success of the Essential model, I would be surprised if we don't do more in the future variations on that theme. But we'll see. It's been
awesome.
a pleasure talking to you, and thanks
I
for having.
same here. All the success, you know.
Yeah, and it's
Hoping
a
for
great question from someone who really knows the instrument. So
uh,
it's valuable for me just to get the questions as well.
I'm
I think.
like obsessive, so